What's good? God is good. I'm your host, J.DIDIT, and welcome to Thursday Therapies. This is a safe place for you to come and lay your shit out. We are a podcast bringing awareness to mental health, and I have my guest with me, Choetry, the founder and creator of Sac Poet Society, a great writer and poet here in Sac County. What's up, Cho? How you doing?
Great, especially after all that praise.
Yes, yes,
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
I love it. I'm loving the creative scene. I'm loving, just being out here with Sac Poets. We're out here filming at CSSB. Shout out to CSSB. This has been a great place for open mic. This is where I met you at open mic CSSB. It's been a great honor to be a part of Sac Poet Society with you. So how's your week going?
Such an honor to have you.
Thank
and
you.
My week has been, it's been going. Like I said, I have like so many projects in the works, and getting like a footing with like Sac Poets, like handling the social media, the flyers, the meetings, and like planning for like.
Yeah, it's growing.
For the next year.
It's definitely growing. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what are you doing for self-care to get you through the week? I know it's a lot, and I know, trying to make it to all these open mics, and, there's so many events this month. Like, what are you doing for self-care, and how do you determine what event that you're going to show up for? Because there's so many.
I'm so glad that you asked me that, because that's actually a conversation that I had with myself, like, very recently. Because, I live out in Lodi with my baby and my parents.
Right.
So it's not practical for me to come out as much as I want, which I would be out here every day if I could.
Right, I'm going through the same thing.
So when I sat down with myself and, like, made, like, boundaries with myself in terms of, like, okay, so, like, what is like a practice, like how many times is realistic for me to come out? Because I kind of landed on like 2 to 3 depending, because one obviously would not be enough, like open mic is just one, and the city is booming right now, like there's so many creative outlets and
it's definitely hot.
Yeah.
It's definitely hot.
Yeah, you definitely you don't want to miss out on any of it.
Right.
I definitely don't. So I kind of landed on 2 to 3. It's going to be a little bit hard because Sacramento Poetry Week is coming up.
Right.
The 20th,
I'm so excited.
The 26th.
Yes, I'm so excited for that.
So I'm like, whew, well, that's like going to be every single day, and that's going to be super awesome. But it is super important to like draw those boundaries with yourself of being like, okay, like I love the scene, but also like I'm a person. I'm a human.
Right.
I'm also a mom. My baby's 1.
Yes.
So it's like, I gotta spend time
mommy
with him.
duties for sure. Yes.
Mommy duties.
Yes. So then, like, you feel kind of bad, because I feel the same way. I'm in the same predicament, kind of, I'm a little further out of Sacramento right now, but I really had set myself up to where, I have these certain days where I want to be able to commit to and show up so that I can, practice my craft also, but I want to show up for other people because a lot of people are having features going on right now. So I'm like, okay, you have like 3 features, I can make it to 1, you really just want to show up for those that have been supporting you, like you guys have been supporting me, so that's kind of been tough, but it's been amazing. It's really been amazing.
And then I'm so glad that you make time for Sac Poets as well. And then as well as all the other stuff, because one, for your craft, like we said, for your craft, for your friends' features.
Right.
Because all our friends are so talented.
There's so much talent.
So talented.
Yes, so much talent in Sacramento, folks.
Yep. Yeah, come out. And then, I've been seeing a lot of workshops popping up.
Right.
With, I just did a workshop with Camille Janae. That was really awesome. And they have Out the Way on J on, like, this Saturday, the Curator Edition.
Right.
And then, like, even that, like, they have, like, another one of their shows on the 19th. And so it's like...
Right. And I just, this past weekend, went to Tea and Poetry.
Exactly.
Over the weekend for She Writes. So it's just, like, so many things going on this week.
Yeah, so it's important to draw those boundaries, or else, I'm like, I might as well just camp out here.
Right. But then be okay with it, too, because then you don't want to feel bad, because you're like, I really want to show up for you, but because I know you showed up for me, but then, life happens. And like you said, you're a mom, a new mom at that, life happens, and you have, to put priorities first. So, but, you definitely make a lot of time for, your craft, and I see you popping up, we've been running into each other for quite some time, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And one thing I want to add to that is that, like, you know, if you don't draw boundaries, like eventually that's gonna catch up to you.
It does.
And it's gonna make you draw boundaries.
It does.
You're like, you're burnt out now.
Right.
So
and then you can't go to anything, right?
Yeah.
No,
For like a couple weeks.
Right. Yeah. No. Then you really feel bad. But no, that's cool. That's good. That's good. Okay. So, as you know, Thursday Therapies is a discussion on mental health awareness, and I really just want to get your outlook on mental health. My first question is: at what age were you when you heard the term mental health, if you remember?
Mental health. I feel like maybe in middle school.
Yeah.
Maybe in middle school, we would talk a lot about that, especially because, you know, we're going through puberty during that time. But I know for me, like, I almost, like, had, like, an existential crisis, like, at 9.
Okay.
And I became, like, very super self-aware.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like, what kind of person do I want to be? Like, how do I want to treat other people? And that's a lot for a 9-year-old.
Yeah, that is a lot.
So, like, having that conversation earlier,
wow.
Which, like, being a mom now, like, I am able to see all the resources coming out to, like, teach children how to talk about their feelings, their big feelings, and that they are still loved even though they have big feelings. So that would have been super helpful. But middle school was definitely one that, like, phrase of mental health was probably
okay. That's interesting, because I had the same conversation with another guest, and it wasn't until later on in college the term mental health is that when they heard it, and that's kind of similar to me too, because I dealt with a lot of different issues, and first it was you're crazy, or they really didn't have. I didn't really know of the term mental health until more recently in the recent years, but for you that's amazing. Like even in my daughter's school, she's 7 right now, and that term is being used, and more resources are available for kids in that age to get them while they're younger, so that they don't just go without all this thing. But there's such a big stigma on mental health back then. Is just like, no, you're crazy, or like, we're not taking those pills, we don't have that kind of issues, what goes on in the house stays in the house. So did you ever have to deal with any of that in your home?
Definitely. I think too, like, talking about like how mental health awareness has changed over time. Like, my parents are immigrants, like refugees from Laos, and so not only is it like that's a different time, but also like a very different culture. So it's like you don't talk about those things, and it's like you don't, like, trust me, you don't have it rough, like we have food, we have a home, and this is all we need. But then also, like, I'm pretty sure my mom has, like, some undiagnosed, like, mental illness.
Right.
And my dad, he coped with a lot of, like, substance.
Right.
So, like, I grew up with that. And, like, now that I'm older and can see them as people and not just my parents, I think about, like, man, I wish I could get them some, like, help.
Yeah.
And some, like, recognition and acknowledgement of, like, hey, like, I think you've been dealing with, like, a lot of stuff.
Right.
And so much respect to them, and, like,
yeah,
to live all that, their whole lives, 6 decades.
Right. Do you feel safe to talk about your parents about mental health issues? I mean, in the home, I know that things have changed, recently, and like you said, it's a different culture, but a different time period. Because I know that, for my mother, it was a different time, and that was. You didn't talk about that type of stuff. Like, we don't have that type of stuff going on in our household. So it was really difficult to try to get her to get help for stuff like that.
Especially because there is such that stigma, and I definitely want to talk to them about it, because one, it would, like, improve their lives, and then also like my relationship with them.
Right.
But unfortunately, like, so, like, my ethnicity is, like, we're Yumian, so, like, I speak the language, but the language itself, I don't feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but, like, has the vocabulary to have those discussions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, mom, like, have you heard of bipolar disorder?
Wow.
Or, like, dad, like, I think you're suffering from, like, depression and alcoholism. Because my dad, like I said, like, they're in their 60s now. And my dad, like, a lot of his health problems have come up. But he's struggled with alcoholism, like, this his whole life. So it's like, I'm starting to have those conversations, and it's hard when I go to the doctors and they're just like, yo, like, your dad needs to, like, stop drinking.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna kill him.
It's
and I'm
tough.
like, I get it, but it's like, it's a disease,
Right.
Like, how can I help him? Like, there's that language barrier.
Right.
Yeah, there's that language barrier and that cultural and generational barrier of like, well, like I'm old, so like why change now? So yeah,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And they do, like, I get it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been living this long, so I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing,
yeah,
and it's very tough to get them to change their minds.
yeah,
I had the same kind of issues with my mom. She knew what she wanted and she knew what she didn't want, and she
yeah.
didn't want those people in her
Yeah.
business, so
I
it's
think
pretty
too,
tough.
like at their age, like they've definitely have had like lifelong friends pass away,
Hmm.
and so like I think like at their age, my dad like, and I don't know if he truly means it or if it's just a like a defense mechanism of like a coping mechanism of like, well, if I get like sick, then like that's fine. I'm old already. Like I'm going like then I'll just pass away,
Right.
which is like to us we're like no, like there's so much modern medicine, there's so much preventative care we can do,
Yes.
but it's just yeah, there's that barrier of
There
like
is. And
yeah,
it's hard too, even for our parents. Like, you're my child. Why are you telling me what to do? And
yeah,
it's very hard. But it's like you want to help them so much, but they're just not willing to receive the help because of the stigma that's been on mental health for
yeah,
so long.
yeah,
They're still not trusting modern medicine, and trusting people to be in their business because of that big difference
yeah,
of culture.
yeah.
So, did you ever witness mental health? Did you ever have to witness mental health disparities in your home or in the community? And I think you kind of answered that a little bit because of the culture barrier.
Yeah, definitely. My sister, my oldest sister, she has had quite the journey of like taking charge of her mental health,
Hmm.
and recognizing like, hey, I need help. So I have so much respect for her, and so much love and support for her because like that's not easy to do.
Right.
But
It
I
is
think
tough.
like at some point you're just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
How can I get help? And she's always been such a proponent for mental health and being like, maybe you should see a therapist or like
Right.
maybe talk to your therapist about talk to your doctor and like get a referral. She's not one to shy away from that
Right.
awareness.
Like, right, a different, like, you
Yeah.
guys, because it's a different generation. So, our generations are like willing and able, a little bit more trustworthy of modern medicine, and, thinking that people can actually help. Therapy
Yeah.
and counseling and therapy, they're not there just to pry and be in your business. They're there to
Yeah.
help you to maintain. It's a tough time. We live in a tough world right now, tough times. And so I definitely want people to get services, therapy, and counseling, whatever they can to get help. When I was growing up, I did think that because my mom thought that they just wanted to be in your business and take kids away, or they want to
Yeah.
they want to get you in trouble for some reason, but it's not that at all.
Yeah.
It's that they're there to help you to navigate this journey.
So
We're
that you
all
can take care of
here.
yourself while
Right.
you're taking care of your family.
Right.
Yeah, no, with my, like, with the Mian culture, like, a lot of, like, the elders, now at this point, because of, like, their health is catching up to them, like, I've seen a lot of them, give up drinking,
Nice.
they have, like, diabetes now, so, like, they're much more mindful of what they consume, but, like, growing up, like, it was very a common, like, traditional cultural practice of, like, okay, like, when we have ceremonies and get-togethers, like, there's going to be alcohol.
Right.
And cigarettes used to be really, really big in
Yeah.
like our home too. My dad, when I was 14, had a minor stroke,
Wow.
so it did like stop him from like he gave up the smoking and the drinking for a long time until like I don't know, like a few years went by, and then he did pick up the drinking again.
Yeah.
And it's difficult too, like
Right.
once you get into that habit. And he's also what I've talked to his doctors about, like he drinks in the evening
Yeah.
or like drinks to unwind.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, he's also like a social drinker, but again, like his like people, his like friends now, like they don't really partake.
Right.
But once you're kind of in that habit, like you keep it's a rabbit hole.
And it's tough, and so that's why it's good to seek therapy, or seek help in some sort of way. That way you can get coping skills, so that you don't have to go drink. So maybe you can go for a walk, or pick up something, a healthier something to take place of the alcohol, because alcoholism comes from trauma, past trauma. We usually end up using and abusing drugs and alcohol, to numb the pain of something that happened in our childhood. So I really recommend therapy. I continue to say this, and I'm going to continue to say, is I recommend therapy for those that are struggling. That way they can come up with a plan. Okay, so do you feel that the world's understanding of mental health has changed over the years?
Definitely.
And you've seen a change in your family?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a change with my sister. I think now that my parents are like retired and they don't have to worry so much of like, okay, I have 4 children in the house that I need to support.
Wow.
Because I also recognize like my dad, like he used to work the graveyard shift at Jackson Rancheria.
Oh, wow.
And we also had a strawberry farm that we worked during the day. So it's like he was constantly working. So I don't blame him for like, okay, how do I take the edge off?
Right.
Because who is he going to have those conversations with?
Right.
We grew up in poverty, and they came from like a third world country,
right.
like that area, and a lot of trauma for the both of my parents
right.
growing up, of like siblings dying and like having to deal with death
right.
so young, and I can't even comprehend that,
Right, so they're on constant survival mode.
Yeah, and so like now that they've like don't have to work to live anymore, definitely saw that change. And then also when Jude was born, it just gave them like such a renewed sense of life. Like they have so much purpose and nothing but joy, like when they're with him. But mental health has definitely changed, and I think it is because like there is that want and that trauma of like, okay, like our parents were this way,
right.
It messed us up,
right.
How can we fix that?
Right.
So I was in like early childhood education before I had Jude, and there was this one mom talking about her boys, because her boys would get in trouble a lot because they were having trouble like regulating their emotions, and she took them out of school one day just to like go have a day at the lake, and she was saying like, I forgot the number, but she said something like, I'm trying to do like undo 31 years of parenting.
Wow.
And so like that was just so powerful of like,
right.
Like you're trying to reparent yourself,
right,
and that inner child, and heal that inner child. So like that generational like distance that we have, like
right.
I'm learning every day, unpacking every day. That's a lot. It's a lot of work, but
it is.
To be more self-aware and like
right.
take care of myself more. And sometimes I'm like, man, like this is really hard work. But like I think about the alternative, and I'm like, I could live like the fast life and
right.
like do drugs, alcohol, sleep with strangers,
right.
and like, but that's not who I want to be either.
Right.
So like even though like you pick your hard,
right.
you pick the problems that you have. I would rather have problems where I'm like, okay, like let's have a conversation with ourselves today.
Right, and you want to break those generational curses that have been put on your family,
exactly.
Because they've been in survival mode for so long, and now that you have your own little one, it's just like you want to pass something on to them so they don't have to go through the struggles you went through.
Yeah, with even like me and Jude's father, like we are going through a divorce, and so like I've seen how that like generational trauma has affected our relationship.
Wow.
And so like I want to protect Jude from that at all costs.
Right.
And being like, he has nothing to like do with like our traumas.
Right.
So it's important that we heal so that we can be good parents for
right.
him.
You don't want to pass that on to him at all. Right. Yeah. That's amazing. That takes strength and courage for you to recognize that, for one, and then to take necessary steps in order to make sure that that doesn't happen for him. You're a good mom. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so what can you Wait, no. Do you believe in seeking mental health support, and do you trust it?
I definitely have been to therapy.
Okay.
I started therapy in 2022. It was initially supposed to be for marriage counseling.
Okay.
Um, not to throw him under the bus, but he didn't make it to that appointment. And so then, like, when I was already there, I was just like, you know what? Like, I need this.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter, like, if he's here or not. Like, I'm here to heal
Right.
what this marriage has done to me.
Right.
So I did that, and then I will say that having a therapist is such a personal relationship, and not every therapist is going to be for you.
Right. No. So you got to
Yeah.
shop around, and
Yeah.
and we had this discussion
Yeah.
before on one of my episodes. Is that even though you are going to see a therapist, if you don't click and you
Yeah.
don't feel right in your gut, then it's okay for you to go and seek other therapists. Because it's for you. Really,
Yeah.
therapy's for you and making you feel good and making
Yeah.
you feel safe and comfortable, so that you can work on your life issues.
Exactly.
And it's not for the therapist.
Yeah, and I think that because like me being a recovering people pleaser,
Right.
it was really hard. It's been hard for me to have those conversations of setting boundaries with people. So like, you don't have to think like, oh, like I have to set a boundary with my therapist. But like with my first therapist, she was amazing for me during that time in my life. But as things changed, she just was not for me anymore. So like I had a different therapist during my pregnancy, and people need to be like okay with outgrowing things, outgrowing people.
Right.
And I still have all the love for like my initial therapist, who like I felt like did the brunt work of like unearthing a lot of stuff. She's
Nice.
probably been the most impactful therapist that I've had, because she was asking like the tough questions.
Yeah.
And then like when circumstances change, that's just not what I needed anymore. And people like, you have to be okay with that, because like you said, like it is for us.
Right.
And relationships change, and
Yes.
like we are growing as people all the time, so like we have to go where we're growing.
Right. And it's good that you recognize that, because that goes to show that you're very in tune with your needs and your wants too, to be able to set that boundary and be like, okay, I don't need this anymore. Let me move on.
Yeah.
Because some people might just be going just to be going, and not really working on anything. But it's good that you're in tune with yourself and you know what you want.
Yeah.
And that's good for you to know what you want out of a therapist. You set clear boundaries and you go there and accomplish whatever it is
Yeah.
you need to out of that situation, so that you can go out into this world and manage day-to-day stressors.
I think with my most recent therapist, she was really great, and I had like a great relationship with her, but I don't think she was the therapist that I'm seeking, where it's like I want a therapist to ask me hard questions,
Right.
where I'm like, whoa, like I walk out of there and be like, whoa, like I learned something new about myself.
Right, and you really got to think.
Yeah.
Huh?
And because like that's what I'm here to do the work for.
Right.
Like I mean, I have so many great friendships that doesn't replace a therapist, but
Right.
from what she was doing, I felt like she was giving me a lot of validation and a lot of grace, which I needed to learn that skill of being like, it's okay. Like
Right.
I'm okay that I'm not completely healed right now.
Right.
And I'm doing my best.
Right.
And I definitely needed to hear that. But
Right.
like again, like I'm here to do the hard work, because I'm trying to make moves for my mental health, because
Right.
like every day I'm affecting a little boy.
Exactly. Yes, and they soak it up so much. They soak up every
Yeah.
single thing. So working on yourself to be able to be the greatest mom you can be for your beautiful little boy, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, so what can you tell our listeners to encourage them to seek mental health support?
I think journaling and seeking mental health support goes hand in hand. I think having that self-reflection in a journal, having conversations with people too, but there's something about like when you don't, like your thoughts and your emotions are completely unhindered by the person you're talking to. So you can be free about like saying what you need to say without worrying how someone's gonna think about you, even if it's like a few degrees of like, oh, I didn't know that about you, you
Right.
know? Or, yeah, she's like really going through it. Just to have that freedom of like, okay, like I can be free to say whatever I need to say. Like,
Right.
I was not expecting to talk about my parents coming
Right.
out to here. Like, I don't, so, like, publicly, like, that's
Right.
something, like, you know, like, I felt like the old me would be like, oh, like, my parents wouldn't like that. But
Right.
we're here to talk about mental health and therapy, so, like, I'm gonna be real about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, having that freedom of, like, you can just put everything out on the table
Right.
and look at it and work on it.
Right.
And that's what going to therapy is like.
Right. It's to get it out of you,
Yeah.
because if you just keep it in your mind and in your body, it festers inside of you and
Yeah.
creates sicknesses,
Exactly.
you know, that'll take you out in other ways that are unimaginable. But,
Yeah.
you know, being able to speak on, you know, what's going on in your life and be vulnerable to that is so much therapy.
Yeah.
It helps. So it's so healing to be able to express that, be like, okay, you know what, that's been on my mind for quite some time. I'm glad I was able to discuss that with somebody, and then, you know, work on it and
Yeah.
move on from it, and just don't hold on
Yeah.
to it inside of you.
And having that that therapist relationship, the therapist is meant to be like impartial,
Right.
unbiased.
Right.
So they're going to be like, I think you're being too hard on yourself
Right.
with that, or like, you know, they hear with fresh ears of like
Right.
what you're going through. Whereas like if I'm gonna tell my best friend something, she's gonna be like, oh my god, you were totally right about that.
Right.
Like he doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Right.
You should leave him.
Girl,
you know what
yeah,
she was
girl,
right.
please.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but
They
like,
agree completely,
you know,
yes.
and then like also like with my ex, like he was a confidant for me for so many years, but he has that relationship to like my flaws or like my insecurities where he's going to like say things where
Right.
he's like, well, I've seen how you act.
Right.
Like I've known you for many years and this is a pattern for you,
Right.
you know? Whereas like a therapist, like it is a fresh start
It
for
is.
you to be like, I'm just a person trying to do better.
It's just somebody go and vent to them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, just like you vent to your best friend or vent to your
Yeah.
boyfriend, go and vent to them without any judgment,
Yeah.
and just say whatever you need to say, get it off your mind and move on from it, you know, because
Yeah.
at least you let it out. But if you're going to not vent to somebody else, you're going to sit there and it's going to be in your mind
Yeah.
and it's going to be ruminating, and then, you know, you're going to start having resentment towards it.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want you to be able to express it, get it out of your
Yeah.
system, and move on from it.
Yeah, a therapist too is like that relationship is a clean slate.
Right.
And it's like, I know for some of like the people that I care about, it's hard for them to talk about the things that they're going through because like they don't want my perception of them to
Right.
change.
Right.
And like with the therapist, it's like the therapist is like almost in like a little box. Like
Right.
it's like a little box that exists like outside your day to day.
Right.
And you see them once a week, twice a week, maybe like once a month depending. And you don't have to worry about like, okay, like that person knows my business.
Right.
That person knows that I'm really struggling right now.
Right.
And like to have that like daily relationship with someone and being like, they know that I'm so insecure and like struggling inside.
Right. Right.
And sometimes it is good to let people know that, but like if you're worried about that,
Right.
like you don't have to worry about that with a therapist.
Yeah, not only that, sometimes I think a lot of people have conversations with friends or family members, and then, you know, sometimes it could turn into something like you said
Yeah.
with your ex, that, oh, I know how you are. Then they turn
Yeah.
it against you. You know, you're being vulnerable with them, but then they turn, you know, you're open and vulnerable with them, but then they turn it against you. So then it's just like your trust for people and mankind is just like, you know, who can I trust? So
Exactly.
that's why it's a safe
I have like
space.
one piece of advice that I've learned through therapy and like having mental health resources dealing with that is that like I was in like a vicious cycle of like, I don't want to put it all on him, but like we would have like a fight
Mhm.
and we're arguing, and then like say like we hung up or whatever, or we like
Right.
went our separate ways. I would like subconsciously like I'm hurting, I'm broken, and so like I'm going to seek him to try to fix it because I'm
Right.
thinking you're the only one who can fix it because like you broke it,
Right.
but you don't need another person to
Right.
fix it.
Right.
So like when I was pregnant, obviously like there were so many issues that came up with like our marriage, like because we were separated during that time, and I remember instead of calling him back, I was like bawling my eyes, but instead of calling him back, I called the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline.
Wow. Yeah.
And just taking that leap,
That
like
takes
putting
strength.
myself out of that cycle,
Wow.
just showed me like, don't expect the person who broke it to fix it.
Right.
And that's how people get stuck in these toxic relationships. Wow. Because it's like, no, you can fix it.
That was brave of you to do that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, that was really brave of you to be able to do that, because we do always look for the other part, our partner or the other person to be able to want to fix it and move on from it. But like you said, we don't need that. We, we could fix it with ourselves, within ourselves, our mind, our thinking, how the way we feel towards life and outlook towards life. That's powerful for you to say that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. No, you've given me a lot of great information. I'm very glad that I had you on this show. I'm learning so much more about you. I love seeing you in all the different scenes. With that being said, I would like to switch gears and discuss your awesome craft. So I know that you are the creator, founder, creator, co-creator of Sac Poets Society. What made you come up with that?
So Raya and I, we took a poetry workshop, and it's kind of like the divine timing where I feel like me and like some other friends who were in that workshop, I felt like we're in the same place, we're healing, from relationships.
Right.
So we're like, trying to discover ourselves again. And so like going into that, and I think it was just such a great group of people. And we're all so different too. So like that makes the mix even like more magical. And after it was done, because it was only a 4-week course.
Okay.
And after it was done, Ryan and I were like, let's keep it going.
Right. You didn't
we
want
all
it to
like
end.
each other.
That's
like we
cool.
all like each other. Like let's keep this going. And it's honestly, what we've done is so different from just even that initial workshop, because we've grown it. And like, I don't think Raya or I have ever had that experience, but she and I both really cared about it. And like, obviously, like if you know the two of us, we have built such a deep like friendship from like raising Sac poets from the ground up. And now we're doing so much different things and like pushing the boundaries and being like, what else can we give to Sac poets?
Right.
And we definitely want that to be like a resource for everybody who's interested in poetry.
So explain it. So you guys, because I've been to the workshops and I'm a part of it, proud to say, and you guys make it for all poets, all creatives to come and pretty much they can run the group. Like if they have an idea, they can come in and give a prompt and work with everybody in the group. How does that go?
So the way that our meetings are structured is that we open and end with a poem from like a published poet. We always want to kind of like expose people to new writing and new poets for like educational purposes and inspiration. And then we'll start with like the events happening in our city, because we want, again, to be a resource for people to be like, oh, like I'll also go check that out. And we come up with exercises. We try different poetic forms, and we have that time. We carve out that time for like everybody to be like, okay, we're here on a Thursday. Let's write. And so I've gotten feedback where it's like, I know that like when I'm done here, I'm gonna walk away with a poem. And it is kind of hard to make time to write, especially when you go out a lot, like we do. You know, having that balance of like craft and like working on a craft, and then also being a part of the community. But we also have time in our meetings where people can bring in things that they're working on, poetry that they're working on, and we can workshop it together. And that's something that we did take away from our poetry workshop.
I love that. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have any upcoming events, features, or showcases coming up?
I don't personally have any. I don't personally have anything coming up where I'm like featuring, but I did have my first hosting gig at A Seat at the Table back in August, I believe, which I was super honored that they asked
love that
me.
place.
It's so great.
It is super cute. I brought my daughter there a few times and she got on the mic. She's 7, and I would love to go back, but like our vehicle situation.
Yeah, it's a lot to balance, and I think too, having more open mics that are family
Right.
friendly
Yes.
would be super great.
Right.
Um,
You also featured, or you also were a host here at CSSB,
yes,
right?
I was a host here too, just a couple weeks ago. My name was drawn up. My name actually jumped out of that hat.
Oh, it did. I think I seen that.
Yeah,
it did.
They
It
wanted
said,
me
pick
to
me.
do it. But I was asked by Seat at the Table to be a reoccurring host.
Oh, nice.
So I will, give that update of like when that will be happening.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of projects that I can't share them all yet because they're in progress.
Nice.
But a lot of great things coming.
Oh,
to the
good.
community.
That's
I'm
good.
super
That's
excited.
amazing. I'm very, very, very proud of you. I'm very,
Thank you.
very honored to know you and be a part of the Sac Poets with you guys. Do you want to share a piece? Is there something that you've been working on, or something that you have, an old piece that you've been working on?
I would actually like talking about everything. I would like to share my debut poem,
Okay.
Cosmos. This is just to like show everybody that like so much can change in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Because last year I had just had Jude and going through my divorce, still going through it.
Right.
And I was like, how do I give back to myself?
Right.
And I started like to get interested in like, well, I love poetry. Let's do it. And Sacramento Poetry, I saw the billboard, Sacramento Poetry Day, and their gala, and I wanted to get tickets, but I had waited too long. It's a free event, but you have to, obviously RSVP.
Right.
And I couldn't get any tickets.
Right.
And this year, Sac Poets have literally been VIP invited by Andrew.
Yes.
By the Sacramento Poet Laureate, and that's crazy.
That's
like,
amazing.
In a year, I went from, man, I can't get a ticket to that.
Right.
To like
VIP.
now I have a VIP table
Wow.
for me and like all of the amazing members of the community that
That's
I've met.
Amazing.
And my first open mic is where my debut poem was at Speak Out Sac.
Okay.
That was in February.
Wow.
And I took that workshop in February, March. So like to have built everything.
I think we're growing in the same pattern, because
Yeah.
that's right around the same time that I started seeing mine. It's just been
divine
amazing.
timing of,
It
like,
is.
We're catching all like our friends on the same like current of like wind, just like bringing us up. You know,
Right.
especially out of a dark time too. I feel
All
like
out of a dark time.
Yeah.
It's all been out of a dark time.
That's how
Everybody's
poets are
trying. It's been
Let me
amazing.
pull it up.
It's been amazing. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Chio out here, co-founder of Sac Poet Society in the building. Yes, she is amazing. You guys got to check her stuff out.
Thank you so much.
Also, check yourself, check your mental health. It is very important. Check
your mental
yourself,
health.
check your mental health. We're all struggling. Everybody's going through life issues right now, and it's up to you to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, a trusted person. Just Google the resources, like give yourself, like just take those little steps.
Yes.
And take care of yourself. You're important, you matter.
And you're not alone.
You're not alone, not at all. Come to the open mics, you'll see.
Yeah, for sure. You'll definitely see.
So this is my poem, Cosmos.
Okay.
2023 was a big year for me. Big as in big dreams. Big as in depression with a capital D. Big as in I got big. Birthed a whole human with my body big. The year brought such big changes, I felt small. Small like a single piece of debris, lying lifeless, crushed under the great tower that stood a moment ago before God struck me down. Perhaps I was too proud, too optimistic, too determined, too much in a hurry to see what he was showing me. Vows had been broken, sad, but not devastating. My marriage came to an end, but divorce gave me a new beginning, and I needed to begin again.
Wow.
Then I met this man, and I fell hard, like from atop the Empire State with the beautiful view. Goodbye, poor world, with a beautiful view on the way down. My heart had been broken, shattered, short-lived, yet devastating. I need to begin again. I'm moving to New York City, and I packed nothing. Wanted to carry nothing but the dreams on my back, leave the old me and her ghosts behind. But before I could even take a step into the city, my dark night of the soul first time on my sunrise. You're pregnant. What the F? okay. Me and that plastic little stick stared at each other for half an hour in silence. Karmic lessons in session. The last time I tried to flee to New York, got pregnant then too. Made a different choice back then. Hurt myself in ways I couldn't imagine. Can't do that to myself again. So now I'm pregnant. Woken up from big city dreams with a cold bucket of reality. Moved back home to my small town, to my parents' small apartment, to a small corner carved out just for me. I have never felt so small. Depression, her relentless waves crashed down, pushing me farther down with every blow. I couldn't catch my breath. As salt water disintegrated the life I knew and carried the life I swam toward farther away. I held my swelling belly and cried often as I cursed the chaos. One night, I must have wailed so loudly, it must have sounded like a song. It was the first time I felt him dance. Wow. In that moment, I changed. This whole time, I felt frail, but creation stirred inside me, like the spirals of the universe, spinning remnants of supernovas into life. I too possessed that power. When Jude was born, I finally saw myself. I am as big as the cosmos.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that was good. Okay, a little bit of, okay. Just a little bit, just a little bit.
I was like, whoa, like,
oh my goodness. And now you're VIP at the gala. That's amazing. Founder of Sac Poets Society. Yes. Such an amazing group of people. That's so cool. So I love it, you guys. Yeah. This is Chio, founder of Sac Poets Society. Look her up. As you hear, her stuff is amazing. Such a beautiful poem. Such a beautiful poem.
Yes,
wow.
You can find me on Instagram at Choetry. That's CHIOETRY.
Right.
That was actually what I called my poetry when I was like 8.
Okay, and well, so she's a poet for life. For life, she's been a poet. That's awesome.
Like, it was like meant to be funny at first, but I'm like, you know what? I'm honoring my inner child.
Yes, you are.
Now.
Yes, you are.
You can follow us for Sac Poets Society information at Sac Poets on Instagram as well. Yep,
that was my next question. Where can people find you at? Yep, you guys look her up. Her stuff is amazing, and yes, have me in tears. So check yourself, check your mental health here on Thursday Therapies. Shot at CSSB.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Thank you.